everyone, this is Fen Lee, designer here at the Bead Flora studio. This is part 4 of a series of videos on how to make French beaded small sunflowers. In part 1, I went over the design process. In part 2, I showed you how to make bead petals using 2 techniques. The technique I developed called the continuous split basic and Lauren Harpster's continuous basic frame. In part 3, I showed you how to make these sepals using both continuous basic techniques. In this final part, I will show you how to make the center, leaves, and assembly. First, I'm going to show you how to make the center, and I already have some brown beads already strung onto 26 gauge black wire. As far as wire color choice, you can use black, brown, silver, or even gold. So we're going to leave about a 4-inch tail, just eyeball it, and make a 1 bead basic. And leave the twisted wire and the loop to be about 4 inches also. Just twist down about 3/4 of an inch. The pattern calls for rounded tops, rounded bottoms, and then we're going to make 8 rows. Now we have the 8 rows done, and the working wire is at the top by the top basic wire here. And for the 9th and 10th row, we're going to make a series of continuous loops with a spacer bead in between. So we're going to make a series of 5 bead loops. And the reason why I chose to use 26 gauge wire is that you can make the loops a lot easier using the 26 gauge wire, especially if we're making such small loops. As you're making the loops, just make sure that you have enough loops for the 9th row, and I just need about 9 continuous loops. And then wrap it around the twisted wire for the 9th row. And then continue on making the loops for the 10th row. I'm not going to have a spacer bead to start, just because there's just enough space here. Then continue on with the spacer beads for the subsequent loops. Now I have all of the loops done for the 10th row, so just wrap it around the top basic wire like you would normally. And then twist the top basic wire and the working wire together. And then cut a tail off of the spool. So now let's turn the center to the back. Bend the bottom wires towards the middle and then away. And do the same for the other side. And let's cut all these bottom wires so that they're flush. For sunflower A and B, we're going to use the same center. And these two are the ones that I just showed you. And this one is slightly bigger. We're going to do 9 rows first and do the continuous loops with the 1 bead spacer. Now we're going to start out the same way as the other center, except we're going to make 9 rows first. And for the 10th row, we're going to have the 5 bead continuous loops with the 1 bead spacer in between. And for the 10th row, I have 10 loops. And then for the 11th row, I have 11 loops. So you may have more or less. You may have 1 loop more or 1 loop less, just depending on your beading style. So we're going to finish off the loop here. So now, because this is an odd number of rows, we're going to have the working wire at the bottom here along the basic loop. So turn this around, and I just want to take this working wire and just bend it over so that it is by the top basic wire, and then we're going to twist these two together here so that there's 2 bottom wires on each side. And then just finish it like the last center. Cut all these wires so that they are flush. I'm going to show you how to make leaf A. I already have part of the leaf done with a 3 bead basic, pointed top, rounded bottom, 7 rows. Next, we're going to undo the top and put 3 beads on to the top wire. Make the pointed top over the 3 bead additions. I'm going to undo the top again, put more beads onto the top wire. I'm going to keep making the rows until I have 15 rows total. Now let's finish the leaf like we would normally. Reduce it to 2 bottom wires. And here are the leaves for sunflower A, B, and C. After you make the leaves, lace them with 30 gauge green wire. Here we have all of the components and we are ready to assemble. Now I'm going to show you how to assemble sunflower A, and it is the same process for all of the sunflowers. So take the center and insert it into the center of the petals. And then insert that into the hole of the sepals. Scissor the base of the flower with your fingers and twist the wires with your pliers. Just twist about half an inch or so with the wires. So that way you'll get a smoother stem when you attach it to the stem wire. Now take a length of 16 gauge stem wire and kind of insert that. There's like a little hole in here. You can just kind of insert that in there. Place these wires next to the stem wire. And then take your floral tape and wrap everything together. And now I'm going to add some leaves. And that's just wherever you would like it at your discretion. Now shape your sunflower. So just basically just bend it in a little bit. Shape the leaves. I made 3 of sunflower A, 3 of sunflower B, and 3 of sunflower C, and we are ready to put the arrangement together. So this is the pot that I'm going to use. I got this at Goodwill maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's just been sitting around with the wrapping still on it and the price tag still on there. So we're going to use it today. So it's just been sitting around for a few years, waiting for the perfect arrangement. There's screws in here for some reason. That's probably ours. My husband's probably. We've got screws all over the place. Okay, and I have this clay. What this is just basically Crayola Model Magic. It's hard to find floral clay these days, but I find that the Model Magic works just fine. Just stuff in there. Not all the way, not yet. Okay, now let's put the flowers together. First, we're going to start with sunflower C and put those together first. Make sure your stems are slightly bent, like this, or not, if you prefer it not bent a little bit. Now I'm going to wrap the stems with floral tape. And I don't want to go all the way down because I still want to cut the stems. Just a little bit so that it stays in place. All right, next we're going to add in sunflower B. Just fill in this space in between the sunflower seed. If you want, you can also wrap around with wire instead of using floral tape. I'll put this up a little bit more. I'm going to wrap this here before I add in the last one, because I just feel like it's slipping. slipping away from me. Okay, next we're going to fill in the spots here with sunflower. Hey! So now I'm going to put it in this little pot. It's a little bit too tall, so I'm going to cut it to length. So I'm going to cut about, I can probably even cut this much here. I'm using a pretty heavy duty wire cutter here. And these I found at like Giant Fabrics at the floral section for like 10 bucks. And I used a coupon, so it wasn't bad. That was some years ago. If you're gonna cut yours, if you're gonna cut stem wire, you're gonna need a pretty heavy duty wire cutter, not the little inky dinky one. Okay. Let's wrap everything now with floral tape. Okay, now let's stick it into the pot. We're going to fill it in with some more clay. Now I'm going to put some moss around it. You can glue it in or just stick it in there. I'm just going to stick it in there for now. If I need to glue it, I'll glue it later. This is pretty old moss. Probably about, I don't know, at least 10 years old. I've had it that long. I don't use moss that much. Gosh, it's a mess. Okay, all right. Yeah, we don't need to glue. It'll stay in there. It's good. Okay. Now just arrange the flowers so that it looks more pleasant. The leaves here are all messed up, so just shape everything again. One more tip that I forgot to mention is before I planted the sunflowers in the pot, I had them in a pint-size mason jar. So if you have mason jars lying around, not the quart size would be too big, but if you have the pint size, the 16-ounce one, it fits in here perfectly. Put some marbles in there and it'll look really pretty. Thank you so much for tuning in to the series on making French beaded small sunflowers. My hope is that you will give the continuous basic techniques a chance. There will be a small learning curve, but once you get the hang of them, you'll be able to make flowers with less bulk, plus making assembly a breeze. If you make this or any of my designs, I would love to see them. Connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or my website at beadflora.com. Lauren and I started a new Facebook group called Learn French Beading. Come join us if you haven't already. I'll put a link in the description below. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!